Ireland inflict a record defeat on England at Twickenham as France march on towards a possible Grand Slam. Welcome back to the Rock and Roll Show. Well, how the tide has turned here on the Rock and Roll Show. We've got, conversely, a very happy Irish supporter here and a very unhappy Englishman, Dom Leach, who I'm going to wind up here and let go because he's got a rant to make. England 21 points, Ireland 42 points at the weekend at Twickenham. Ireland putting in a sensational performance. England, well, I'll let Dom take that one. Dom, what do you make of the game?
It's disappointing. It's tough as well. It was such a tough watch because we weren't there. I think the damage that Scotland did the weekend before carried on into this week, and I think heads were low and were dropped, and we just couldn't rally to pick things up again. I think it was Will Greenwood basically said that every single player bar Joe Hayes who started just basically shouldn't have been there and didn't look like a test player, and he's pretty accurate in saying that, to be honest. But what I didn't like was that the majority of England fans and pundits and everything who came out after the game and was just like, this is ridiculous, like blah 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 blah. Because I'm not saying that England fans do themselves any favour, and I was victim to this. I said, we'll get the Grand Slam, we're going to absolutely walk the tournament and all this, we're all eating our words. But for everyone to kind of turn around and be like, oh, this is the worst England performances in a while, blah blah blah. We're also forgetting how much of a good autumn internationals we had. This is a bit of a blip, potentially. Hoping it's only just a bit of a blip, Whatever, the fact that Wales have been doing so poorly for the last couple of years, it's like, oh, poor Wales. When it's England, it's like, oh, sacked the lot, like everything kind of thing. But
Wales are in a completely different player pool, Dom. I mean, there's completely different expectations and money that is going into their national side and regional side. Surely it's not comparable.
I think even the way that England played, they probably beat Wales, but I'm not saying that I'm not saying that we should be stooping to that kind of level at all. The performance we put in was less than ideal, but like the people who were coming after George for being like, he's had a terrible game, get him out, get Finn Smith in, it's like, hang on, we were absolutely lauding this guy against New Zealand for the incredible performance he was putting in. Guy misses touch twice in the first half, and it's like, oh, get him out of the team. Like, okay, guys have off days. Henry Pollock wasn't fine. Running on all cylinders. Maro Itoje hasn't been the same since his mother passed away, and which is, it is a massive shame, and his head just doesn't really seem in it. But I think what Borthwick kind of lacks is that kind of, I don't know what the word is, but that kind of grit to kind of turn around to the public and just be like, right, I'm making dramatic changes.
Yeah. Is it a flexibility problem?
In what sense?
In terms of like a flexibility of game plan, the game's not was saying it on Saturday, but it was a very good point that was made about how you kept kicking and kicking and kicking to Ireland, kept that kicking game up like you normally do. That's normally very fortuitous for you, but you weren't getting any return out of Balogun, you weren't really getting any return out of Osborne or O'Brien. Did there not need to be a different way, like a different, I guess, way of like you have to adapt to what's in front of you, that sort of thing?
I think fundamentally English rugby needs to change the way that they play, because you look at it across the Prem, across the Champ, and even the national team, that it's very kick dominated. It's to relieve a bit of pressure, box kick, or clear long and chase hard and then kind of pin them back, which it does sometimes work against some oppositions. But if you look at a team like France, it's all running ball. How often does Antoine Dupont or Thomas Ramos or Jalibert actually kick the ball? And it's very rare. And we've got to start backing ourselves a little bit more with that ball in hand, because we have such a good forward pack who can get over the gain line and then give it out to the backs who are incredible if we play the right players. I think team selection was wrong on the day as well.
Who would you have changed?
I think Ajomo, where's he gone? Why is he not in the team? The performance that he put in against Argentina was incredible. Got a man of the match and hasn't featured once. The 6-2 split on the bench, yes, it works in some games, but we rely too heavily. I also think the lack of a proper six let us down. Tom Curry is great. and having him and Ben Earl starting is a good idea, but you need that kind of six, that Alex Coles or a Guy Pepper or a Chandler Cunningham South, who is that other option in the line-out, because the line-outs, it was telegraphed every single time it's going to be Marrow or it's going to be Ollie Chesham, and we lost out in that area, and there just wasn't that. We got turned over. I think Ireland got like 14 turnovers won against England.
Yeah, there was
like
something.
4 or something.
It was like, I think there was turnovers lost and won. It was some crazy difference in that. Like at the breakdown, the amount of knock-ons. You speak of Joe Hayes. He had a very good game, but he knocked one on close to the line when the score was tight in the opening stages. I think it was a lot of turnovers and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, you've got those pictures of Tag Byrne, who he's holding up an English player and he's screaming because he knows he's won the ball over. I think Dom, I think it was the physical battle. I think the most concerning thing was Ireland just wanted it more.
Yeah.
They wanted it more. You could tell they were hurting. There was a lot of things being said, even after beating Italy, a good Italian side last week. People still weren't convinced on them. There's still a lot of criticism coming their way, especially after the France game. All this Ireland side, including myself. I can. And it is only one game, but I can hold my hand up and say that's the best performance Ireland have put in to a man since probably potentially the World Cup. I'm not quite sure. Or potentially that first game of the 2024 Six Nations against France. That's one that sort of sticks out in the past couple of years, but just absolutely sensational. I think also to talk about your England and where they went wrong with selection and turnovers and stuff like that, you also need to give Ireland a bit of a pat on the back, because it was 8 out of 10s all over the pitch, wasn't it? And I think when you've got people like Mike Tyndall coming out and sort of saying, Ireland didn't have to do anything, it was England just gave it to them. There's a bit of truth in that, I guess, in terms of England had a terrible, terrible game, but I think Ireland were clinical. They were superb. Jamison Gibson-Park at 9, best performance I've ever seen him play for Ireland, and he's had quite a number of good ones. Dan Sheehan, Tag Byrne, all your big players, they sort of stepped up and they were like, we've been criticised, but we're going to come here and we're going to give it to the English. And big Stu McCluskey, he's nailed down that spot in beside Gary Ringrose in the centre. Rob Balogun, it looks like he's nailed down that spot on the right wing as well. Osborne's been great at fullback. I think it was a lot of great performances. So whilst there was a lot of bad performances, a lot of bad sort of, I guess, tactical things from an England point of view, as well as, I guess, potentially attitudes, wasn't quite there on the day. I think Ireland need to be given a lot of credit for that. But in terms of looking at both sides moving forward, we've had the 2 weeks without a podcast here. Sort of taking a bit of a sort of look back over the last 2 games against, you've got Scotland and you've got Ireland lost. 2 losses, 0 points, so no losing points and losing bonus points in either. What is the key thing that you think England need to improve upon, and what's the sort of the thing that they have done in the past that they need to sort of, hang their hat on and sort of say, in these tough moments, we're going to rely on this? What do you think?
I think the big thing, mentality is a big thing. And I mentioned Maro Itoje and how he doesn't really seem in it at the minute, and I think when your captain doesn't really seem in it, then that reflects on the rest of the squad. I think someone else, other big players and big characters in that team need to step up and kind of take the weight off him a little bit. Ellis Gend coming out and being like, "I'm really sorry, this wasn't good enough." That's all well and good, but tell the players that. Don't just complain and say, "Yeah, this wasn't good enough from England," because everybody knows that. But what are they going to do about it now? Jamie George, is he going to put his hand up and say, "Right, I'm going to step up a little bit, around that training ground"? Are there other players who are going to kind of step up and be like, right, we need to bring some physicality. We need to bring that energy level to training. And I think mentality and physicality were the two big things, 2 massively important aspects in a rugby match that have just been lacking in the last 2 games. I think the physicality was more there against Scotland, but I think Borthwick almost thought, we'll change a couple of things. We'll give Pollock Pollock his first start, and I think it was just they thought they were going to walk it a little bit because of that home advantage as well. And they thought, going to Murrayfield, it's a tough game, but no, we are in danger of having a similar performance against Italy. And Italy haven't got anything to lose. We'll go into that game thinking, well, we've never beaten England. They're not on a good run they're not on good form at the minute, so we may as well make the most of this. So England have to turn up mentally because Italy certainly will.
Well, as you can see, I mean, apart from potentially Wales, you don't at the minute, and even we can say Wales is, when Wales can turn up like they did against Scotland at the weekend, they can be a tough game. But you can't underestimate Ireland or Scotland because they've got real quality, and I think I wouldn't say England have done that, but it looks like they've sort of had that big win, that big autumn, and then they've had the big boost of the absolute demolishment of Wales on the opening day of their opening match of the Six Nations, and sort of gone, right, we're real confident now and stuff like that. And I think, I don't know, as a bit of hunger been sort of lost, it sort of feels weird that would be the case because they haven't actually won the Six Nations yet. It would always make more sense if they were like, right, well, let's say, I don't know, last year Scotland beat France in Paris, England wins in the Six Nations, then they go into that. It would make more logical sense that potentially a mental drop off after winning the Six Nations, say, if they did last year, but they didn't. So it doesn't really make sense that there would be a mental drop off. I think it's just a tough occasion for England. As Borthwick said in the autumn, they were saying that best team 2 weeks ago, or he was saying 2 weeks ago we were the best team in the world and stuff like that, and now we're like an absolute disgrace, and neither of them are true. And I do think to a certain extent that is the case, but I think he also needs to sort of say, right, well, what has gone wrong? He needs to sort of fix that problem, that mentality shift, that lack of chat on the pitch. I think people who were closer to the game than obviously we were on the day, they were speaking about how Jamie George is the only one that was sort of talking throughout the whole game. And I need more of that, because when you're winning, it's very easy, as we can say, to chat, to sort of say, let's go boys, let's go, let's celebrate these scrums and stuff like that. And you did see Ben Earl, I think he was talking a bit, and he was doing, but I don't think there was enough of that. I think when, hits the fan, you've got to stand up and be counted and sort of do some sort of in-game problem solving together and sort of remain calm, because that's what the best sides in the world do, and that's what sides that go on to win World Cups do. They problem solve when things aren't going well, and it just doesn't seem like England have done that in past two games. But I wouldn't say all's not lost for you, Dom. I think you'll have 2 weeks now, which is important for you, and you'll come back strong against Italy, I think. Although that's a very tough game, as I'm sure we'll reference later in the show. But moving on to the second game of the weekend, one that I had the pleasure of watching in Cardiff, was Wales 23 points, Scotland 26. Very, very tight game. Potentially surprised a couple. I'm not sure whether I was surprised or not. I did predict that it would be a little bit tighter, because I'm not sure where Scotland are sort of at the minute. They can be a little bit hit and miss, I suppose. But Wales in this game, I mean, one of probably the best performance they've had in the Six Nations for a long time. What did you make of the game?
I thought, yeah, like you say, Wales were really good. Completely agree. One of the best performances they've had in a very long time. They've won games here and there, like that Japan game that they had in the autumn. They were lucky to win that, in all honesty. But I think Wales fans will feel a bit hard done by that they didn't win this one. But when you've got the best 10 in the world on your side, it always helps that you can create moments of magic. And that Darcy Graham try was quite astonishing. The quick thinking of that between the two of them. But that's just him, isn't it? He did a similar thing in the Lions tour when he was kind of signalling to Pollock for a quick tap and go and stuff like that. So he just has that game awareness and that switched on mentality. And that's what, going back to the England point, that's what England kind of lack, is that someone to just stand up and go, bin the game plan, we're going to do this right here, right now. and it works.
Well, they do have someone like that in Marcus Smith, but doesn't seem that he's getting.
Yeah, he was brilliant on the weekend.
The benefit. Yeah, no, but like he brought a little bit of zip to the game. You know, I think you're doing him harsh there a little bit. I think he does bring a little bit of that sort of unpredictability. You know, he doesn't bring the same game plan execution that George Ford or even a Finn Smith would, but he can do something unpredictable.
He can, absolutely, yeah, and you know, he demonstrates that with Harlequins, and he is their key man there, and it works because he is the big character. He is kind of the brains in that operation, but he's not the brains in the England operation. There are plenty of other players who you could look to and go, create some magic for us. And I don't think I think there's a big disparity between doing it for Harlequins and doing it for England. I think that he hasn't quite grasped yet, which, you know, I've not got a problem with. He's still quite early on in his career and everything. That experience and time will come and whatnot. I think there are just other players we can look at for moments like that. But going back to the Scotland game, yeah, I think Welsh fans potentially will have felt hard done by. Good for them that they got a point. I think it was really good. I was quite worried for them looking at the team lineup they had. Obviously, no Dan Edwards people had their reservations, and I thought Costello would be a bit flustered at 10, but he actually didn't have a bad game at all. You know,
he had a very good game. Yeah,
he did a lot better than I thought he would. And when Jared Evans came on as well, he came on and still that intensity and continued. But no, I think.
Sorry, yeah, I think a lot of that is also your pack as well, Dom. What do you think, like in terms of giving them a platform? Because I think Edwards obviously playing you guys in the first game, and then France, they're sort of going backwards a little bit, makes it a bit harder to play at 10. Do you think that was the key difference there, or do you think it was a sort of the Costello was just playing better?
I think he's definitely improved, and probably having had tough performances in the last Six Nations, certainly, you know, not playing at his best. I think he knew he had to step it up, and he did. And it's nice now that Wales do have a secondary 10 that they can look at and go, right, we need a big performance from you today. And he proved that he can do that again now, it's reassuring for Welsh fans, absolutely. But yeah, everywhere around the park, I think playing England and France in those first two games was probably like, okay, the toughest is probably over now. So we can build a little bit more, we can carry momentum. You know, we've put in semi-decent performances, and now we've got to step it up and then step it up again and again and again. And they will just keep doing that. So I don't think there's too much cause for concern for Wales. They could still sneak a win in this tournament. Who knows? But, you know, they turned up on the day for sure, and they wanted to win. But it was ability that trumped them in terms of how Scotland did.
Yeah. Well, you spoke about free hits a little bit earlier about Italy. I think Wales will probably almost look at the Italy game as a free hit, you know, because I think Italy, we've established now that are a very good rugby side, and every other team in this Six Nations are, you know, are very good rugby sides. So I think obviously the pressure's on to win that one, isn't there? I think that's probably the one they'll highlight. They go to Dublin next. For me, in this one, Dom, it felt different around the ground before the game. It was like there was a wee bit more energy about you couldn't quite put your finger on it, but there was a wee bit more energy about the city. I was obviously hanging out in Cardiff before the game, and there was a bit more energy about the place. You know, maybe that was the Scots and sort of how they get on very well with the Welsh. I'm not quite sure, but definitely a little bit more hope about the place. Like the Sunday before that against France, it was like, let's watch the game. We're gonna lose. And it's just going to be, you know, there was very little, and as the game transpired, that was exactly going to be the case. You know, they lost quite heavily, but there was a lot more. I think this fed into the performance. There was a lot more hope in this game for Wales because they know that Scotland aren't infallible. So I think he came into this one. I think the intensity was superb. You speak about Doylek, James Botham, who did sort of, I guess, switch off for that Darcy Graham try. I thought he had a fantastic game outside of that. He really brought physicality from the bench when Plumtree went off for injury. And yeah, it was just David Jenkins making a couple of huge hits as well. I think just across that forward pack, you know, they really stood up and were counted, and they brought that intensity and that fire, and they won the game up front like they did. And I think a couple of the backs, you know, maybe could have maybe could have used that as a springboard to sort of go. I think Thomas Williams was fantastic, and the 9 and 10 were great, and Eddie James at 13 again has put in a great performance. He's established himself there, but I think it was just it was a great game plan. I think maybe a couple of players could have played a wee bit better, but it was a great game plan. And I think if Scotland don't score that quick restart try with Darcy Graham, Wales hold on and they win that match. And that is the margins that we're talking about. We're talking about a Welsh performance which was worthy of victory on the day. It was. And it was just switching off at that kick-off. Like, it was a calamity. Like, they were all their backs were turned, you know, James Botham, Hamer Webb, you know, on that side. They just need to, it's just, I guess it's maybe a bit of experience, maybe a bit of, right, it was 11-point lead they had just made with the penalty at that point. Right, we can sort of not relax, but we're in a good spot here. Let's get back here and then let's play the game from here. And I think it was just Finn Russell, just a bit of magic from there, an incredible bounce, the speed of Darcy Graham, and then as soon as that try went in, I think it was the energy in the stadium sort of kind of dropped from a Welsh point of view. It was sort of like, oh, it's down to 4 points now, you know, and from that point forward, Scotland sort of started to turn the screw a wee bit. I would sort of like to get your opinion on this one. I think there was a lot of controversy over the try, or not a lot of controversy, but a little bit of controversy in terms of a Scottish player. I think it was Matt Fegerson, who sort of entered the maul, and he seemingly looked to block the Welsh, I think it was Archie Griffin, looked to block him before George Turner would go over for the try. What was your stance on that? What did you think?
I think he comes into the maul legally, so I think from that you have to.
You think so? I did see it sort of different. It did look like he had sort of gone for Griffin.
I don't think he can. I think he had him in mind, obviously, and it's one of those things in the dark arts of rugby where, you know, in a ruck or a maul, you go in, and then if you know that a player it could potentially like kind of sneak away or something, you know, you'll hold on to a leg or something, or you hold on to an arm, so it just kind of delays them a little bit and takes their focus of what is happening in front of them. I think I didn't see a problem really with the entry, and then therefore he's kind of pinned Archie Griffin in, taking his focus off, as I say, what was going on in front of him, and then. You know, it's created room for was it Taylor, George Taylor,
George Turner, yeah.
George Turner, yeah. So yeah, I think it's. Of course, you're gonna when it's big moments like that, you're gonna put a microscope on them. You know, we look back at the Lions tour, Jack Morgan's clear out on Tizano. You know, you're gonna look at those moments that are game deciding. If you have random moments in a game where, you know, where it could be won or lost, you're gonna just highlight it so much more. Whereas if it's like, you know, Scotland went on a massive lead and they still scored that try, you'd be like, okay, whatever. You know, you wouldn't look at it too much. So I think it's just a moment thing rather than actually focusing on whether it was, you know, the legality of it or not.
It's an interesting one. I think there's basis for debate for it, I think, like in terms of like whether it was or not. I think it looked a little bit suspicious, a little bit. But again, I'm a back and you're a forward, so you probably know more about binding onto mauls than I do. So you might have the edge on me on that one. But in terms of these two sides moving forward, I mentioned Wales have obviously Ireland and Dublin. Scotland, they'll have France at Murrayfield. Scotland now from a position of, you know, in the first game losing to Italy, are now on 11 points. They're 4 points behind France. Effectively, they've got not it in their hands, but if they go and beat France now, the championship's on with the final day. You know, it's obviously they need a little bit of a favour from you guys as well, probably, because you'd say they're probably not going to get a bonus point victory and you know, stop France from getting anything at Murrayfield. But where do you think Scotland can go to Murrayfield and you know, take it down to the final day?
No. to be quite frank, I think France are just too good, man. Like, they are just incredible. I know we'll touch on the Italy game a bit more, but they just shut them out. They have that ability to shut a team out and just kind of have them at arm's reach. not necessarily do a great deal in that time, but then they'll go, okay, thank you, now we'll take our opportunities to score and take points from you. And I think they just will do that with Scotland. Scotland will come at them with everything they have, and I have no doubt about that. But sometimes it is just ability that trumps everything else, and that's what France have. They have a very good cohort in their camp, and I don't see really a way that Scotland can overcome them. They can have the better mentality on the day. They can have the better physicality on the day. But I think that kind of all goes out the window when you're playing a team like France. You know, they don't often have a bad day. And I think from the autumn, they've cleaned a lot of things up. You know, their defence was a massive issue when they played Australia, because there was like 80-odd points scored in that game. But I think, Murrayfield is the only thing that I think, the fact that it's there is the only thing that I can say could be a slight bigger defining factor. But from an English point of view, I'd love Scotland to do them over, and then that would hopefully drop their heads and we could make a bit of a mark on them in Paris. Who knows? Literally, I'm not even predicting any games at this point, because you just don't know. You really do not know.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a fascinating one, for sure. I think France are probably your safest bet in the tournament at the minute, to be fair. But that's a fascinating one for Scotland. I mean, what an opportunity that is, like, to go from what they did, and it just makes the Italy result even more frustrating, because if they could have won that, I mean, like, they're right up there with them, like, in terms of points. But like going into this, like they'll have a couple of weeks they'll have a bit of preparation time now. What an opportunity in Murrayfield for them. In terms of Wales, though, they'll go to Dublin. Ireland's coming off the high of that record-inflicting defeat of England. Emphasise that point a little bit. Put that one in again. What do you think do you think they can land a mark on Ireland, or do you think Ireland have put themselves sort of, I guess, on a better track again?
I think it will definitely help Ireland's case. You know, going back home after a big win in London, you know, that it's a massive momentum carrier, because it says to them, okay, we are still capable, we can still do this. And you know, they've experimented a couple of things here and there. You know, they dropped Prendergast, they brought Gibson Park back in. You know, they're kind of re-establishing that pack and where the strengths lie in that. And they look 10 times better than they did, you know, at the start from game week 1 and also from the Autumn International. So it's good from an Ireland point of view in that. I think for Wales, they just need to start scoring tries. You know, 2 tries against Scotland. They went for that scoreboard pressure, which worked. You know, as you say, they built up an 11-point lead and then unfortunately lost it. But you need to be scoring tries. That's where the money is. That's where the points come from. You know, it's all well and good kicking off the tee, but you need to be getting over the whitewash and scoring the tries because you know that's how you get a bonus point. That's how you get closer into a game, and it is certainly an ability thing and maybe a confidence thing as well for them. Why they haven't necessarily been scoring as much, but I think if they want to make a real mark on Ireland, they need to get some tries in there, because otherwise it will just be a bit of an Irish whitewash. I think they'll still put a few points on the board and give Ireland a run for the money, and you know, not have a deficit as large as it probably would have been a couple of years ago. But yeah, I think their room for improvement now is definitely in their try scoring abilities. Yeah,
well, I think that's an interesting point, because they did go for the points a lot. I think it probably was the wise choice at the time there, but I think, potentially seeing some of those improvements in attack, maybe some strike plays and stuff like that with some of the pacey outside backs that they've got, it could be an interesting thing to see. But moving on to the final game of the weekend, you had France versus Italy, and we touched on it a little bit about the defence of France. I mean, you don't really, when you think of a 33-8 victory, you don't really think about defence too much. You sort of think about a lot about attack. France, I mean, take it away, Dom. I mean, what a performance again.
Yeah, incredible. They can create something out of nothing. And they did that with BLBR's try. You know, they were pinned back, and then it's just all of a sudden they make a break, and he is so rapid that you just can't keep up with him. And
so Ange Capuzzo, for that first try, he burned just like...
Yeah,
it was
just absolutely... Capuzzo almost like... He gave up. I think he was like, oh, God, I'm not going to keep up with him, so what's the point? But yeah, I think Italy were almost fortunate to get their try as well. I think, it didn't look, it wasn't the most convincing of tries. It was more of a France switch off a little bit. But as I say, they don't necessarily go for the jugular every single time. They'll wait, they'll keep you off, and then they'll just go, and that's why they are so dangerous. Antoine Dupont, I just got to say, he is undoubtedly one of the, if not the greatest rugby player to ever grace a rugby pitch, because
Oh wow.
what he can do it's different gravy, honestly. Just defensively solid, so strong. The way that he's just fending off players left, right and centre. I think it was Canone and then Zambanin, and then just going off on a little run, putting a little grubber in, and a couple of offloads here and there. Just, they keep the ball alive, France, and he is so integral to that. They'll get a very flat line and then just go boom, 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 spread it out to a bit of pace, and then they'll go again and they'll rebuild. And then
It's the stop and start, isn't it? Like, it's like they slow you right down and then suddenly they're away. Like, you've seen it against Ireland.
Yeah, they just switch it on and switch it off as they please. That's what makes their rugby so attractive and as I say, so dangerous. It's a joy to watch. It was just such a complete performance, and to hold Italy to 8 as well. Everybody said how good Italy are, but France made them look like, a tier B side, a tier 2 side. So yeah, they have such incredible ability, such great players all over the park. They're really starting to establish players in that squad again, and Miafu was sensational. I think one of the best games he's had, and I think he's really solidified his spot in that second row. And when you've also got Thibaut Flamand and Michael Guillard as well, kind of fighting for those places, it really gives. Name's gone from me.
Aldrit.
No, French head coach.
Galtier, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Galtier.
It really gives Galtier it's a nice problem to have, but for him as well, it's like, who am I going to pick this week, kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought you were trying to talk about it in terms of like the people who'd have to compete for a place in the forwards with him. But I think
everybody competing for a place. You're not nailed on unless you're Antoine Dupont or BLVRA. You are not nailed on for your spot at all.
Yeah. The strength and depth is ridiculous as well. I mean, you've got Gael Figu, who's not even in there, and they've got Gayeton, they've got Gorges, I don't think's played the last 2 games. You've got Bray Boy, I think I've said that right. Just like the strength and depth is ridiculous, and it keeps coming. Yeah, it was absolutely sensational from France. It was a very sort of like, right, well, they're just going to go on and win it now, aren't they? Sort of performance. And Italy, I thought, like, kept in there with them. I think you say about them getting that sort of try, it was sort of fortuitous, but I do think they sort of made their own luck in that first half. I think they did have a couple of opportunities in the France 22. I think they did sort of. I'd say they earned that try in terms of from what it came from was very obviously fortuitous, but like I think they did earn it. They kept with them. Obviously a tough start, 19-0 down, came back to 19 points to 8, and then it was in that second half where it's just sort of like, right, well, if you can go and get something now, create a bit of magic, get a try, you're right back in the game. And they held on in that second half quite a bit, but a lot of the play was very much in their own half. Just France smothering them, they weren't getting any change out of the kicking game, which has been so huge for them in terms of the last 2 games against Ireland and Scotland, and they weren't getting any change going up the middle, going out wide. It was just everywhere. The French defence was just relentless, and they're just not on France's level, unfortunately. I think the fight they showed was still very encouraging. I think they will take that into the England game, and they'll take a lot of heart from that they can keep in with these big sides for long periods of the game. It's just sort of like, right, well, how do we take this to the next level? And I think that's sort of a development thing. I think that's something that'll look at in the next couple of years. How can we get closer to the top sides in the Six Nations and start competing? But yeah, France again, superb. I think in particular the defence in this game was the standout for me. I think we can always talk about France creating something from nothing, which they did on a number of occasions. but that Sean Edwards defence, I think it was back to its very best at the weekend. Absolutely superb, and that defence will be tested once more, probably by what you could say is a more potent Scottish attack. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up, how they try and neutralise the Finn Russell and co. At Murrayfield. That'll be a different, obviously, experience for them at Murrayfield away from home. And I think if they go and win that, Dom, I can't see them not well. I think they will win the title. Obviously, I think a bonus point win guarantees it. A win would virtually guarantee it, but I think it would also sort of put us on a footing where, well, they're going to go on and win the Grand Slam most likely. But what do you make of that game from a French perspective? And what do you think they need to do in that? Is it just more of the same, just suffocating their attack and then a bit of magic on offense?
Yeah, I think when you can, on so many occasions, create magic as they have done, it's a nice thing to just be able to whip out now and again. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Moafana back in the squad. I think he could really I think he could silence McCloskey a little bit. I'm not saying that,
Oh, do you mean to Pilotu?
Yes. Who did I say?
McCloskey.
No,
Centre.
No, I'm thinking about Ireland. I think he could really silence.
He's been having nightmares the past couple of days. That's why. Big Stu.
Yeah, literally.
Big Stu chasing him down like he's Marcus Smith.
Yeah, don't get me started on that as well. No, I think because that Scottish centre partnership is electric. Everybody would want that in their team almost, and I think they have to fight fire with fire, and that's the centre partnership is something they've changed a couple of times. They brought it was a straight swap from the Ireland game to the Wales game, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him back. Same with Deporter. So yeah, I think that'll be a big area that they'll try and win. But as well, if they've got, Darcy Graham has to start for Scotland. I think. I don't think Duhan van der Merwe will be there. I made the mistake of putting him in my fantasy team, and then also thinking, he'll score a few tries against Wales, and also captained him. So that was a big mistake from me. I won't be making that one again. Yeah, so big fat 10 points from him. But no, I think they will have to just put out the best squad they can, just to cover all bases. If they're serious about doing the Grand Slam, then they have to take this game seriously, because Scotland are their closest chasers, and so they need to bring their A game and their A team.
I think they've got many people to choose from for that A team, and that's a fascinating one. Like, I think that's the way it's sort of build towards now. That is the game of the tournament. We thought it was going to be England-France, but it looks like that's going to be a real big one, and that's going to decide. And if Scotland can pull off that, I mean, it's a huge step forward for them in their development, and it puts them into the final day against Ireland in Dublin with a chance to, win the championship, which would be just like so far away from how they were looking after the Italy game. On Italy, they've got England at home. A hurt England. England with, I guess, the eyes of the rugby world on them, sort of asking them what's gone on here. What do you think Italy can do to pile on more misery?
They'll be without Capuozzo. He's gone back to injury, unfortunately, for Italy, but they've proven that without him, they can still, grind out some really good performances. And I think they just need, I think the mentality and the physicality have to be there. They have to just be so switched on and be like, right, we could maybe do this. We just have to leave our mark. And if they start leaving their mark, then that's when, teams will start going, they're not as confident running into contact or around the breakdowns or around, set piece and stuff like that. So if they just show up and really mean it with intent, they could, overturn a victory. I think for England, Borthwick needs to not be afraid of making drastic changes. Rather than, Henry Slade, where is he? He's incredible. He's been doing so well for Exeter this year. Give him a chance. He's another ball-playing, back who can really create some magic, and he's just not getting a look in. And, Ollie Lawrence was so off it on the weekend, which is so rare for him as well. But I think, if Italy just bring that physicality, bring that aspect of what the hell have we got to lose, then they will really put England in some hot water.
It'll be a very interesting one as well. I think we're building up to a very exciting weekend next week, with a lot of questions to be answered. But we're gonna finish off three review with a little quiz here, Dom, or a quick fire five. So we've done this before, but we've got 5 questions to answer as quickly as we can on last weekend's rugby. Dom, would you like to go? Would you like to answer the questions first or ask the questions first?
I'll ask first.
You'll ask first.
Are you ready?
Yeah. So bearing in mind, I get 15 seconds. We're going 15 seconds.
Yeah. Don't take too long. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can. Yeah.
I'll push you for an answer if you're taking too long.
Yeah.
Okay. Question 1. Darcy Graham scored right from kickoff after the Welsh put some points on the board. But which Welshman was it?
It was Jared Evans.
It is correct. 2 Englishmen were sin bin versus Ireland. Who were they?
It was Freddie Stewart and Henry Pollock.
Correct again. Usually the French play at Stade de France for their international games. But in which city did they actually play versus Italy?
Lille. I thought you were going to ask me the name of the stadium, or I was going to be like...
I thought it was a little bit hard.
Yeah, there we go.
Jack Crowley was ace off the boot, bar 1 conversion. But whose try did he not convert?
It wasn't Jameson Gibson Parks. It was Dan Shane's.
5. It was Rob Balakoon's.
Was in the corner, to be fair. Yeah.
And finally, who completed the most tackles of the round with 24? 5, 4, 3.
Matt Ferguson.
It was Daft Jenkins.
It's always Daft
Of course
Jenkins.
it was Daft
Tackles. No, but like he does. He completes a lot of tackles. I was just thinking it was Scotland because they had to do a lot of defending. Right. Okay. That was the thing.
Did have the most tackles.
He did have. He had some sort of stat which is very good. Right. That's 3 out of 5. That's not too bad actually. I'm very impressed. I got the first couple there, but I sort of fell off towards the end. Anyway. So French forward Emmanuel Meafou is not born in France. Where was he born?
New Zealand.
I'm going to give you the point because I didn't ask you for where specifically in New Zealand. There you go. I was going to ask you where in New Zealand. Fuck's sake. Right, anyway.
I would have said Auckland, but...
Oh, well, you were right again then.
There
you go. No, I'm not going to give you that because it was worth 1 initially. What was Ireland's previous points record at Twickenham, which they beat on the weekend? So the previous.
Say that again.
What was Ireland's previous points record, points put on the board against England at Twickenham?
The last time they played at Twickenham?
No, just in Twickenham in history. So they broke it on Saturday, but what was it previously?
Oh, I see. As in the points difference?
No, as in points put on the board from them.
Okay.
Alright, I don't think I made this clear enough. Right.
36.
That is incorrect. It was 32. Not too far off, actually.
It had to be under 42, so...
Yeah. It was actually in 2022, so it wasn't that long ago. How many times have Scotland beat Wales consecutively?
6.
4. That's incorrect. It was 4. Yeah. They usually have a pretty good record against them up until recently. What year was Stuart McCluskey's first cap for Ireland, which was made against England?
2023.
Oh, you're quite far off it. It was 2016.
No way.
For Big Stew, yeah, he's been around. He's 33, I think. So he's been around a long time. Louis Bielbiere beats Tommy Freeman's record of consecutive scoring in consecutive games. How many consecutive games has he scored a try in the Six Nations?
I want to say 11.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
That's incorrect. It was 8 matches.
I thought I saw something that said that.
I think it's 11. It was maybe 11 in the last 8, probably. I would say.
Okay.
I'd say that's probably where you've gone wrong. But I am the winner of this week's quiz.
Terribly.
Ireland beats England again, predictably. Yeah, you gotta let me have it. It was a tough first week, and you let me know about it after that. So I think this is fair game. But yeah, that was episode 3, season 4 of the Rock and Roll Show. I'm sure Dom will say it's been a lot less of a blast for him than it was for me, recapping that England-Ireland game. But it was a good show nonetheless, and thanks very much, Dom, for being a good loser, I think. it could be said. But yeah, thanks very much for coming on, and thank you very much for watching, guys.